Hey, this is Sean Decker from Dread Central, coming to you from the TCL Theatre in the heart of Hollywood, California, at the 21st Annual Screamfest Film Festival. I'm here with filmmaker Monica Moore-Suriyage for her film
Ciguapa Siempre.
Awesome, which is screening at Screamfest on October 15th. I'm really looking forward to talking about this film with you.
Oh, yay.
But first we're going to jump in and show you guys an exclusive clip, so enjoy, and we'll be right back.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but I'm sure it's nothing.
That too?
I mean, I'm sure it's fine.
So Monica, before we jump into La Ciguapa, and I'm trying to pronounce that correctly.
That was right, that was right.
I had an Estonian filmmaker in here earlier that I had just interviewed, so I'm working on things.
Yes, all over the world.
All over the world. Well, you've been many places with your previous film to this one, and I know that it played a lot of film festivals, won some awards, led to your appearance on Horror Noire, which is a really respected documentary. Perhaps you can talk about those experiences, that film, and your recollection of that documentary.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Black and Red Out, I used to live in this great house in Burbank with like 9 other people, and there was a severe mold problem. And we were like, are we gonna die? And it was like, could smell it, and one of my roommates was like, what if the mold made zombies? And we were like, that's a good idea for a movie. So I ended up writing the script, and I directed it with all my friends. You know, all my friends were the crew and acting, and we just shot it in the house. It takes place at a party, so we half threw a party. Like, I think some people thought it was a party, but it was a shoot, and there was like fake blood everywhere. And because of that, I ended up meeting Ashley Blackwell, who contacted me when Horror Noire was, getting ready to shoot, and she was like, hey, we'd love to interview you as part of like the world of Black horror and to represent the next wave of Black horror filmmakers. And I was like, me? Of course. And there were, Tony Todd was in it, and Jordan Peele was in it, and Rachel True was in it, and I got to meet a lot of them at the premiere, which was awesome. And everyone involved with that documentary is kind of someone I can turn to now. Like, hey,
That's
I have
great.
a project, or I have a question. It's been really cool.
Yeah, I really love that documentary, and also really love Tony Todd. I haven't seen him in some years, but we used to pal around a bit. And he's such a nice guy.
He's awesome.
He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Back to the kind of the folklore backstory here that we've got coming with some of the films at Screamfest. We had a film from Estonia, a feature playing Krat, that is based off of an Estonian folk legend, which I found kind of fascinating. And in watching your film, clearly it's based on a Dominican piece of folklore, which I also was unaware of until I had seen your film. So maybe you can talk a little bit about, became knowledgeable of that folklore?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, so the Los Angeles Latino International Film Festival did their first fellowship for Afro Latin filmmakers specifically. And a friend was like, you gotta apply to this. And I was like, okay, it doesn't have to be a horror piece, but for me, it's gonna be a horror piece, And my mom had kept saying, my mom's Dominican, and she moved to the US, I think in the late 80s. With her siblings and her mom, and she's always talking about, she's like, you should make a movie about us, you should make a movie about the DR, and I don't think she meant like this, like scary, but
It's scary.
Oh,
It's
good, I'm glad. Sometimes I'm like, is this scary? Or is it just like normal? But for the sake of the fellowship, I wanted to tap into, my Dominican heritage, and I was looking through myths, and I came across the Ciguapa. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I asked my mom about it, and she knew what it was, but she didn't want to talk about it.
Really?
Because she doesn't like scary things. I don't think she loves that this is where I ended up, like in the scary space. But eventually, we started talking about it more, and she's like, yes, I've heard the stories, and then I was like, okay, if it scares you, this is a great start. And I wrote the script, and I kind of bounced it around with my producer, Chelsea Colosimo. And then I applied to the fellowship with that script and ended up getting in. So then we got to make the short.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
What was your, that was the development, but what was your pre-production and what are your remembrances on principal photography for that film?
Oh my gosh, we shot it in 2 days, which looking back, it should have been more than 2 days.
You got a lot on screen for 2 days of production time.
Thank you.
It looks great.
Thank you. Most of the first day was green screen, because the legs turning around and her taking off into the woods, and then when the two walk towards each other, that's all green screen. And I have my friends are amazing VFX artists. Shout out to Spruce. And when I wrote the script, I came to them first, and I was like, if I wanted to turn somebody's legs around, can you do that? And they were like, we don't know, but we'll try. So most of the first day, like 80% of it was green screen, and our actress Cheyenne was running on a treadmill on green screen, and then we would film like the top of her body, the bottom of her body, from the side, from the other side, and then they kind of stitched it together. And then the big conversation around the campfire where, you know, all the emotions are bubbling up and stuff, that was mostly the second day. And then in the fellowship, they offer mentorship. So they had people to help critique the script, you know, give thoughts on shooting, like, and they were totally like, you know, grain of salt, like if you don't want to take our ideas, don't have to, but they kind of had some ideas like, what if we see footprints ahead of time? And I was like, that's genius, but we already shot it. So we ended up shooting that in my friend's, like, you know that little strip of dirt between the sidewalk and the street?
Yes.
That's where those footprints are.
That's amazing.
We just like poured water in them to like make them darker. And it's kind of a blur now, but I think we got everything we needed.
I think it succeeds, definitely.
Thank you.
So with all short films, it's that question of how are you going to pay for it, right? I mean, we've certainly all been there, myself included. And this movie looks great. You've had a lot of VFX, obviously, on it in post. So how did that come about?
Well, the whole reason this exists is because of Laleef in collaboration with Netflix. They put the fellowship together and they provided the budget. They gave every project $20K to shoot. That's honestly the most money I've ever had to make something. And we got a little ambitious and kind of realized that even though $20K feels like a lot, right, you know, when you start, this is a lesson for me, when you start working on it, it's really not that much. So we raised more money. You know, some people donated money, which was awesome. And then Chelsea and I started an empanada business. So we were making empanadas and then selling them and like driving all around LA to drop them off. And we raised a couple grand that way too.
That's amazing.
It was really bad for our skin, the oil, like the frying oil and the smell. I smelled like oil for like 2 weeks, but you know, we're scrappy. So we got the budget
whatever you need
together
to do to get the film done, right?
Exactly. And then VFX, like they really did me a favor. You know, what the rate that we paid them is much lower than what they should charge for everything that they put on the screen for us. So it was a lot of favors, you know, pulling favors, and luckily people were excited about the script and the project, so they were kind of willing to just lend their talents and their skills for not as much money as they definitely deserve.
It's good to have friends.
Yes.
And the horror community generally really pulls together to help each other out too, which is great. I mean, I can't think of any other, you know, fans of a genre or within the filmmaker community that really bands together as in that capacity.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, do you see the romantic comedy filmmakers just getting together and helping each other out?
And my impression is that they're more or less actually battling against each other. So.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. So what are your thoughts on the Screamfest selection of your film? Screamfest is the largest and longest running film festival, genre festival in the U.S. And you know, certainly has brought a whole lot of different filmmakers from around the world together for so long. It excites me every year. I'm always really humbled and happy to be here. With your film, what's been your response?
We were really surprised when we got accepted. It was kind of, we had like a list of like, you know, these festivals are reaching, you know, if we get into one of them, wow. And Screamfest was on that list. And it was extra special because, you know, it's local, we're all LA based. So it's like a really, you know, grounded, long running, prestigious festival, and it's here and home. So all our friends can come see it. And we just were really proud because, you know, we've submitted to so many festivals, and I feel like there's a little bit of a difference in opinion on like what goes with the vibe of different festivals.
Right.
You know, some festivals I feel like they're like they want like the slashers and like blood, we want blood, you know, and if your piece doesn't represent that, you usually get a pass, you know, and I wasn't really sure what this festival was looking for, but now I'm seeing that they really just want, you know, horror in all aspects and what is relevant, what's a throwback, you know, like it's kind of, Screamfest is like all encompassing, so I'm happy to be here.
What's coming up for you after this film?
Well, I'm hoping to make the feature version of the short. It would be my first feature, so very exciting. And I'm working on it, you know, with Chelsea and with some other friends. We're all kind of putting our heads together and like, what's the 90-minute version of this, you know? So it's kind of delving more into the characters and more into the lore and why do Ciguapas exist, you know? So I'm working on writing that now.
I think that would be really cool. I mean, as I was watching the short, I'm like, I could see this to be something much larger.
Oh, yay.
You know? So as an up-and-coming filmmaker working in the horror space, what have been your experiences thus far?
Well, I feel like as far as I've come, which is not that far, but where I am right now.
You're at Screamfest right now, so come on.
Thank you. I feel like it's all been based on like who I am, which is awesome. Like, you know, I'm first generation American. Both of my parents are immigrants. My dad's from Sri Lanka. My mom's from the Dominican Republic. So there's a lot of pieces of, I belong to a lot of different communities. And for a long time I was like, who am I? Like, what is going on? And I feel like that lends itself to horror really well, of like self-discovery, what am I? And that's kind of what the short is about. You know, like, I don't know where I fit in, what am I? And I think that's really been fueling my storytelling and work, but also being this person, you know, biracial, Black woman, all of these things. I feel like horror has been very welcoming to it. And for a long time, I thought those things were a detriment, you know, to trying to get ahead and trying to make stuff and trying to convince people to give you money and like, you know, all this stuff. But there are members of my own community exist within the horror community, and we all want to help each other. And, you know, Pete Corona, who is the executive at Netflix who helped put together the fellowship, he loves horror. So when he read my submission, he was like, this, you know, and I think leaning into like my love of horror and then fueling it with my own personal cultural experiences is why I'm here and why people are interested in hearing the stories. So I'm actually really grateful to be all these different things, because I think now it's starting to make sense, even though growing up I was like, I'm just so weird, what is going on? And now it's like, oh no, weird is cool, and that's how it's working.
I mean, I think it's amazing. Certainly your life experiences are unique and are going to imbue anything that you're writing and directing into the future. You can see the uniqueness on display in this film, and again, I'm excited. I'm kind of wanted to go back to something you said earlier in regards to your mom not really liking scary things. And you're obviously, from what I can understand, a lifelong horror fan. You know one when you meet one, right? What are her thoughts on your art?
Well, she's still hoping for just the romance piece, you know? Like, she says that, she's like, can't you just make a nice love story? And I'm like, this is kind of a love story, a little bit, and anti-love story. But, you know, I do think at some point, I would love to experiment with other genres, but for right now, I feel like horror just is what makes sense, and it's what I understand, and it's the pacing that I've kind of taught myself how to do, and I feel like I have to really, like, you know, stay here for now. And sorry, Mom, but, you know, this story exists because of you, which is cool. But you know, she'd be very happy to see something not scary. At least there's not a lot of blood and stuff. She doesn't like that even more. So I think she can handle this for now.
I think there's a lot to explore again in this mythology, and I'm really interested to see the feature version of this.
Oh, thank you. Here's hoping.
So I've been asking all of our filmmakers today one final question. What's your favorite October tradition?
Ooh, Well, growing up, we actually didn't go trick-or-treating. That was something we didn't do. So I go hard for Halloween now as an adult. My costumes I plan very far in advance, and they're very elaborate. But also my family, we're mostly October birthdays.
Oh,
like
amazing.
almost all of us, like me, my brother, most of my cousins on both sides. And then if you're not in October, you're probably in September. So we're all like, you know, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio people. So as soon as like it hits like September 18th, it's just birthdays for like the next 30 days. So we're in that bubble right now.
That's got to be tough on you as a filmmaker who's got a genre piece playing in film festivals, which are generally always in September and October. This is like the most busy time of the year for all of us, I think, and we're exhausted by the time November rolls around. You've got to be like, I can't go to your birthday party.
I know,
Sorry.
and I forget people's birthday. My own birthday is coming up. I'm like, whatever, it's fine. We'll probably be at a festival, you know, so it doesn't matter.
Well, happy almost birthday.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is
Of
fun.
course. So until then, thanks you guys for joining us again. For more exclusive content on Screamfest, stick to Dread Central. And for more information on the festival itself, visit screamfestla.com. And make sure you don't miss Monica's film. It's called
La Ciguapa Siempre.
Thanks again.